No one expected the Super Bowl halftime show to turn into a real fight. The audience came to watch a football game, but they witnessed a historic moment. The legendary Mike Tyson, one of the most dangerous boxers in the world, entered the ring against a giant mascot. The famous Philadelphia Eagles eagle, Swoop's mascot, had no idea that an innocent joke would turn into something more. It was supposed to be a fun show, but one strike was enough to silence the stadium in shock. The stadium was electric with anticipation as the halftime show approached. Thousands of fans cheered, their voices merging into a deafening roar, while the bright stadium lights illuminated the massive field. It was the perfect setting for an unforgettable spectacle, but nobody could have predicted what was about to unfold. In the middle of the field stood Swoop, the beloved Philadelphia Eagles mascot. The towering eagle costume, with its oversized head and flapping wings, had been a staple of the franchise for years. Swoop had danced, hyped up crowds, and even participated in lighthearted stunts, but tonight was supposed to be special. Tonight, the halftime show promised a legendary showdown. As the announcer's voice echoed through the stadium, the crowd fell into hushed excitement. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise for you tonight. You've seen Swoop take on challenges before, but never anything like this. Introducing the former heavyweight champion of the world, the one, the only, Mike Tyson. The stadium erupted. Out walked Mike Tyson, dressed in a simple black t-shirt and boxing shorts, his signature fierce expression in place. Even at his age, Tyson still carried the aura of a man who could knock out anyone with a single punch. Fans roared, some chanting his name, others laughing in disbelief that the legendary boxer was about to square off against a giant, feathered mascot. Swoop exaggerated his movements, flapping his wings dramatically as if to say, "I'm not scared of you." The crowd responded with cheers and laughter, fully expecting a playful skit where the mascot would pretend to fight, dodging imaginary punches. Tyson stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. A commentator added to the excitement, "I don't know about you, but I think Swoop might be in over his head tonight." Swoop played to the crowd, raising his wings and bouncing on his feet in an exaggerated boxer stance. Tyson smirked, lifting his fists in a defensive stance, humoring the joke. He even threw a few light feints, his movements sharp but clearly restrained. The stadium roared with laughter. Then it happened. Swoop, in the spirit of showmanship, swung an oversized glove at Tyson. It was meant to be playful, a harmless tap to add flair to the act. But something shifted. Tyson's expression changed, just slightly. The playful smirk disappeared for a fraction of a second, replaced by something more focused. The stadium might not have noticed, but those who knew boxing recognized it instantly. Tyson had slipped into fight mode. The energy in the air subtly shifted. Even Swoop's movements slowed slightly, as if sensing that something was off. But the crowd continued cheering, oblivious to the small but crucial change. Swoop raised both of his comically large gloves, bouncing around with exaggerated confidence. Tyson, ever the professional, took a half step back. Then, out of nowhere, he threw a lightning-fast jab, one that was just a little too real. The impact wasn't devastating. After all, Swoop's mascot head provided some cushioning, but it was enough to send the giant eagle stumbling backward. The crowd gasped. This wasn't part of the script. For a split second, the entire stadium was silent, processing what had just happened. Was this still a show, or had Tyson actually taken the swing seriously? The silence broke as half the crowd erupted into cheers, while the other half looked on in stunned confusion. Swoop wobbled, then dramatically shook his head as if trying to regain his bearings. The mascot took an exaggerated step forward, raising its gloves again. The crowd laughed. Maybe it had all been part of the act after all? But Tyson's stance had changed. He was no longer in play mode. He was standing like a fighter, knees bent, shoulders relaxed, ready for the next move. People started whispering, some pulling out their phones to record. Something about this was off. The commentator's voice wavered slightly. Folks, I think we might have a real fight on our hands." And just like that, the stadium was no longer watching a halftime show. They were witnessing something entirely different. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. What had started as a playful halftime show had now become something else entirely. The stadium crowd, at first laughing and cheering, now sat on the edge of their seats. Everyone could feel the shift. Mike Tyson was no longer treating this as a joke. Swoop, the Philadelphia Eagles' beloved mascot, straightened his oversized head, the exaggerated plush beak still bobbing slightly from the unexpected impact of Tyson's jab. The man inside the costume had felt that punch. Not hard enough to knock him out, but just enough to send a clear message. Tyson wasn't here to play games. The crowd murmured in excitement, cameras flashing, videos being live-streamed across social media. Commentators, at first caught off guard, scrambled to keep up with the sudden change in tone. Folks, I don't think this was in the script," one of them said hesitantly. "Mike Tyson might actually be taking this seriously." Swoop, realizing the show must go on, took an exaggerated step forward, raising his padded gloves like a fighter. The crowd laughed nervously, unsure if this was part of the act or the beginning of something wild. Tyson, expression unreadable, stayed in a defensive stance, shifting lightly on his feet. He was a fighter. His instincts never dulled, even years after his last professional bout. Something about being in the ring, even if it was just a field with a mascot in front of him, flipped a switch in his brain. Swoop feinted a punch, bouncing back on his oversized, cushioned feet, trying to keep it playful. The crowd cheered. Tyson didn't flinch. Then Swoop did something nobody expected. He threw a punch. Not a hard one, not meant to hurt, just an exaggerated, comical jab aimed straight at Tyson's head. But it connected. The crowd exploded. "Oh my God!" shouted the commentator. Did Swoop just land a hit on Mike Tyson? For a second, Tyson stood still. His expression didn't change. The camera zoomed in, capturing every detail. Then he grinned a wide, almost predatory grin. And then he countered. With the precision of a lifetime in the ring, Tyson dropped his weight and threw a right hook. Asterisk, asterisk, not hard enough to knock Swoop out, but strong enough to send the oversized mascot stumbling. Asterisk, asterisk. Swoop wobbled backward, flailing his wings. The crowd went wild. The moment slowed, the entire stadium on its feet, unsure if they were witnessing the greatest halftime moment in Super Bowl history or the beginning of a serious situation. Security guards at the edge of the field started moving forward, unsure if they needed to intervene. Swoop caught himself, barely staying upright, and instinctively charged forward. The giant eagle mascot, now seemingly on autopilot, ran straight at Mike Tyson. The place erupted. Tyson sidestepped at the last second, like a seasoned pro, causing Swoop to trip over his own feet and crash onto the turf. A mixture of gasps and laughter swept through the crowd as the mascot flopped onto his stomach, wings sprawled out. For a moment, there was silence. Then Tyson stepped forward and helped Swoop up. The stadium lost its mind. Cheers, applause, and relieved laughter filled the air. The cameras captured it all. The moment of real tension that had transformed back into the show it was meant to be. Tyson patted Swoop on the back, raising the mascot's arm in victory like a referee at the end of a fight. The crowd roared. Memes were being made in real time. Social media was already flooded with clips. Swoop versus Tyson. Fight of the century. Swoop just went one round with a heavyweight champion. Philadelphia Eagles mascot almost died today. The commentators, now fully embracing the insanity of the moment, declared, "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we just witnessed the greatest halftime show of all time." The footage went viral within minutes. Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram exploded with reactions. People speculated, was it staged? Did Tyson actually get mad? Or was it just the most perfectly executed accident in sports history? One thing was certain. The Philadelphia Eagles mascot had just earned legendary status. And Mike Tyson? He just laughed, waved at the crowd, and walked off the field like nothing had happened. The energy in the stadium refused to settle. Even after Mike Tyson helped Swoop back to his feet, the atmosphere remained electric. Fans were still cheering, their voices carrying the weight of disbelief and amusement. The internet was in a frenzy, with millions of viewers now tuned in, watching replays and debating what had just unfolded. Swoop, despite the stumble, was still in show mode. The mascot played up the moment, shaking off the defeat like a true competitor. He pounded his oversized gloves together, flapping his massive wings as if demanding another round. The crowd loved it. Tyson, ever the showman, smirked and raised his fists again, nodding in acknowledgement of his opponent's resilience. The stadium's roar only grew louder. The halftime show had long surpassed expectations, and nobody wanted it to end. Then, something unexpected happened. From the sidelines, a group of backup mascots, costumed figures from other teams, there to add some flair to the halftime performance, began moving toward the center of the field. They had been part of the planned routine, but now they saw an opportunity. One of them, a towering figure dressed as a giant cowboy, jogged forward and pointed dramatically at Tyson. Another, a cartoonish shark, flapped its fins in mock intimidation. The stadium cameras caught it all, broadcasting live as the mascots, seemingly emboldened by Swoop's antics, challenged Mike Tyson. The stadium went insane. The commentators barely kept their composure. Folks, I don't know what's happening anymore, but it looks like Tyson isn't just fighting Swoop. He's fighting the entire Mascot universe. Tyson grinned, cracked his knuckles, and turned toward his new challengers. He wasn't going to back down. The first to engage was the cowboy mascot, who took an exaggerated step forward and mimicked a Wild West duel stance. The crowd loved it. Tyson, playing along, squared up, pretending to be ready for a serious bout. Then, bam, the cowboy mascot threw the first punch. It was a soft, gloved jab aimed at Tyson's shoulder, meant to be funny. But Tyson, never one to be outshone, ducked the punch and came back with a light-speed feint. The cowboy mascot reacted in dramatic fashion, spinning in place and falling backward in a theatrical knockout. The crowd lost their minds. Before Tyson could even reset, the shark mascot charged in. Flailing its comically large fins, it lunged, attempting to swallow Tyson whole with its oversized mouthpiece. Tyson sidestepped smoothly, dodging the shark's ridiculous attack. Then in one swift motion, he tapped the shark on the top of the head, and the mascot immediately dropped like it had been struck by lightning. The stadium erupted. The backup mascots were now fully committed to the bit, turning what had started as a one-on-one match into a full-fledged battle royale. A mascot dressed as a giant banana entered the fray, bouncing on his feet like a real boxer. Tyson, shaking his head with a smile, threw a few shadowboxing jabs, clearly having fun. The banana mascot threw a wild, looping punch, and Tyson barely dodged, or at least that's how it looked to the screaming fans. Then came the grand finale. Swoop, now fully recovered, decided it was time for one last ultimate showdown. With dramatic flair, Swoop pointed at Tyson, raising both wings. The stadium lights dimmed slightly, the cameras zoomed in. This was it. One final moment to close out the most insane halftime show in history. Tyson nodded, acknowledging his feathered adversary one last time. The two squared up in the middle of the field. The crowd held their breath. Swoop moved first, flapping his wings and charging forward. Tyson read the moment perfectly. With a perfectly timed sidestep, he spun around Swoop and delivered a slow, playful tap to the mascot's back. Swoop, committed to the entertainment, sold it like the greatest stuntman alive. He flailed, twisted, and then, asterisk, boom, asterisk. Swoop collapsed in dramatic slow motion, arms and wings spread wide. The moment felt like something out of a movie, the crowd roaring as if they had just witnessed a legendary knockout. And then silence. For a moment, everyone waited. Then Tyson bent down, offering a hand. Swoop's wing twitched. Then, suddenly, the mascot jumped up, victorious. Tyson laughed, raised Swoop's wing in the air, and the crowd erupted into absolute chaos. The internet broke. Hashtags flooded Twitter. Hashtag Tyson versus mascots. Hashtag Swoop wins. Hashtag Super Bowl fight night. Sports analysts, meme creators, and celebrities all weighed in. Within minutes, every major sports network was replaying the moment, calling it the most insane Super Bowl halftime show ever. The final highlight? Swoop and Tyson standing together, arms raised, as confetti rained down. It was the perfect ending to a halftime nobody would ever forget. And as Tyson walked off the field, shaking his head with a grin, one thing was clear. Nobody does entertainment like Mike Tyson. The stadium remained in a state of pure, unfiltered chaos. Even as the halftime show wrapped up, the energy refused to die down. Fans were still on their feet, discussing, laughing, and debating whether they had just witnessed the greatest Super Bowl stunt of all time, or if things had spiraled completely out of control. Mike Tyson, ever the showman, exited the field with a triumphant wave, his presence larger than life. Behind him, Swoop stood with his wings raised, soaking in the adoration of the crowd. The other mascots, now unofficial combatants in what social media had already dubbed the Great Mascot Brawl, milled around, high-fiving each other and reveling in their unexpected stardom. But while the crowd celebrated, the broadcast team struggled to regain control of the coverage. The play-by-play announcers, who had initially prepared for a standard halftime breakdown, found themselves at a loss for words. "Well, folks," one commentator finally managed, still catching his breath from laughing, "I think we all need a moment to process what just happened. I mean, Mike Tyson just went toe-to-toe with an entire squad of mascots." His co-host chuckled, shaking his head. "I don't even know if this was scripted. If it was, somebody deserves an award. If it wasn't, well, I guess we've just seen the most ridiculous thing ever broadcasted during a Super Bowl." Social media was already in full meltdown mode. Within minutes, hashtags like hashtag Tyson vs. Swoop, hashtag Mascot Mayhem, and hashtag Super Bowl Fight Night were trending worldwide. GIFs of Tyson dodging punches, Swoop dramatically flopping to the ground, and the now infamous shark mascot takedown flooded the internet. Even sports analysts, usually focused on player stats and strategies, couldn't resist weighing in on the insanity. Tyson, still grinning from ear to ear, made his way toward the locker rooms. A swarm of reporters and production crew members trailed behind him, eager for a comment. One brave interviewer finally caught up, microphone in hand. "Mike, that was unreal. Did you know any of that was going to happen?" Tyson let out a deep laugh. "Man, I came out here expecting to throw a couple of fake punches and go home. But when that big bird came swinging..." He shook his head. "I had to show him who the real champ is." The interviewer laughed along with him. "So, are you saying Swoop gave you a real fight?" Tyson smirked. "Hey, I've fought some tough guys in my career, but that mascot? He's got heart." Swoop, still in full costume, waddled into the frame and playfully raised his wings like a boxer. Tyson, ever the entertainer, responded by shadowboxing for the cameras, throwing light jabs near Swoop's plush-covered face. The internet ate it up. Behind the scenes, NFL executives were in panic mode. What had started as a fun, unexpected moment had now become the defining highlight of the Super Bowl. The issue? Nobody in the league office had any idea if there would be consequences. Were there liability concerns? Could Tyson have actually injured someone? Had the chaos overshadowed the game itself? One executive, frantically scrolling through Twitter, muttered under his breath, "We just lost the entire second half of coverage to a boxing match with a giant bird." Another executive shook his head, holding up his phone. "We might have lost coverage, but we just won the internet." Within an hour, the NFL's official social media accounts leaned into the madness. They posted slow-motion replays of Tyson's perfectly timed dodge, Swoop's dramatic collapse, and a freeze frame of Tyson lifting Swoop's wing in victory. Their caption? "Greatest halftime ever." The post shattered records. 20 million views in an hour. Sports networks replayed the footage on repeat, celebrities reacted in real time, and even former heavyweight champions chimed in with commentary. While the fans were losing their minds, the actual players of the game had their own opinions. In post-game interviews, both teams were asked not about the game itself, but about the Tyson versus Swoop battle. A linebacker from the Eagles shook his head, laughing. "Man, I was in the locker room trying to focus for the second half, and then I see this video of Tyson knocking down our mascot. I almost spit out my drink." The opposing quarterback, struggling to keep a straight face, added, "Honestly, that was better than any touchdown I've ever seen." By the time the game ended, the Tyson versus Mascot storyline had already overshadowed everything else. Then, in the final twist of the night, Mike Tyson himself posted a challenge on Twitter. A short, grainy video, filmed from inside the locker room, showed Tyson staring into the camera, serious as ever. "Swoop, you gave me a fight tonight. But next year, let's do it right. Official rematch. You and me. Super Bowl 2026, asterisk, asterisk. He paused, then grinned. No mascots to save you this time. The internet exploded. Within 10 minutes, the tweet had over 500,000 likes. Sports analysts debated whether the NFL would actually sanction an official Tyson versus Swoop rematch for next year's Super Bowl. Late-night hosts made jokes about whether Vegas would start taking bets. Even boxing promoters chimed in, offering to set up an actual pay-per-view event. Swoop, ever the entertainer, responded in kind. The Mascot's official account posted a video of him training in the gym, running on a treadmill, and hitting a punching bag while the Rocky theme played in the background. The caption? "You're on, Tyson. Round 2. And just like that, the countdown to the most anticipated rematch in sports history had begun. By the next morning, major sports networks ran top Super Bowl halftime moments lists, and Tyson versus Swoop ranked #1. Sports Illustrated labeled it asterisk, the most absurdly entertaining thing we've ever seen. Asterisk, ESPN ran a 30-minute segment dedicated entirely to breaking down Swoop's defensive strategy. Memes flooded the internet. Merchandise featuring Tyson versus Swoop sold out instantly. And the question on everyone's mind? Will there be a rematch? One thing was certain, nobody would ever look at mascots the same way again. And Mike Tyson? He had just cemented himself as the only man in history to nearly knock out a giant bird on live television and turn it into sports history.